Hello, everyone. Welcome to our program, Consciousness in Evolution, a project from Reaprendentia International, whose objective is to debate essential themes of conscienciology. Reaprendentia is a conscienciocentric institution dedicated to education and personal growth. We also bring researchers to talk about and debate with us themes such as self-re-education, parapsychism, out-of-body experience, bioenergies, multiple lives, and other subjects related to self-evolution. So, people, today we have a very special guest, as always. His name is Rodrigo Marchioli. He's from CAEC and ACIP, that are two conscienciocentric institutions. He's going to talk about cosmic consciousness. So please feel free to send us your questions, okay? And I'm going to read his resume to introduce him to you, okay? Um, Rodrigo is a lawyer and a college professor. He's also a PhD candidate at University of São Paulo School of Law and has been a conscienciology instructor since 2013. And since then, he has been researching the phenomena of cosmic consciousness, which he has already experienced. He's author of courses, lectures, and articles on the subject, having published and contributed especially to Consciência magazine and the Encyclopedia of Conscienciology. So, welcome, Rodrigo.
Thank you.
It's a great pleasure to have you here, and you can start at any time talking about the experience of cosmic consciousness.
All right. Thank you, Eliane. Thank you for everyone who's here. And thank you to Reaprendentia for the invitation. I'm very glad to be here talking about this phenomena, which I think it's very important to our evolution. The main topic here, I think it's consciousness in evolution, the evolution of consciousness. So I think this is a very important subject that we need to talk more. And Reaprendencia is giving us this opportunity, and it's great to be here. I would like to reinforce that everyone that wants to ask questions or send some message to us, that do it during the transmission, the class, and I will answer as soon as possible. Don't let the questions to the end, because maybe we will not have time to answer all of the questions, or our time is very short here. So it's very important to the participation be done during our class. So can I start, Eliane? There's
Yes,
something.
sure.
Okay.
You can move the slides. If you need help, let me know.
Okay. So just to start off with our presentation, it's important to state that this is a activity from Reaprendencia that intends or wants to connect people from all over the world. So maybe there's somebody that's not used, or that there's not a common sense between all of us around the concepts of conscienciology. So it's important to state some things that are very preliminary to conscienciology. And one of them is the principle of disbelief. So it's important here to stress this out, because we start off from this principle. So don't believe in anything, not even in what you hear in this webinar. Have your own experiences. It's important to not believe in what we are saying here, and to try to have your own experiences from what we are proposing or from other perspectives. But we do not work with dogmas here. We don't have this kind of form of thinking that it's from religious or any other kind of framework that does not work with scientific perspective. So the principle of disbelief is very important for us here. Uh, so can you put the slide in the main screen, please? Because yeah, so I can see better. Thank you. So we have some topics that I separated for us to chat today, to discuss, and I separated 5 topics. The first one is the historical data to um, try to show that cosmic consciousness, uh, which is a term coined by Richard Book. We will talk a little bit about him, but here in conscienciology, we say cosmic consciousness would be a more preferable term or more adequate or correct term in conscienciology perspective. We would say cosmo consciousness, but historically, in the common sense, many people know this phenomena as cosmic consciousness, and we'll say that it's a universal phenomena. It's something that is experienced through many cultures and through many times. It's not something created by us, but something that is universal indeed. Um, in a second time, in a second moment, we'll talk about a little bit what is cosmic consciousness, what is the definition, and having in view the definition proposed by Professor Valdo Vieira, which is, let's say, a conscienciology definition. It's our perspective around this theme. In the third moment, we'll try to show some criteria of analysis, which is some points that I could identify in my research that could help to characterize the phenomena. It's a very complex phenomena, I think, and it's not very easy to differentiate this phenomena from other phenomena. So I will not try to do this differentiation now, but I will try to show or to offer some tools for the people interested in researching this theme to know more about and to try to characterize this event when it happens. And to do it, I will go a little bit deeper in the characteristics. Each one of the characteristics, I will try to talk a little bit more about each one of these criteria of analysis, which will, in the end, characterize the phenomena of cosmic consciousness. And in the end, I'll propose some questions for us to think about, because I think it's something that leads us to a lot of questions, and I think it would be a good way to end this class. So, without further ado, I will go to the next slide. So, historically, we have not many people, but a good group of people that we can say from a historical perspective on from some writings that these people had some kind of experience related to cosmic consciousness or cosmic consciousness, if you prefer. And from these 3 people, I would highlight Patanjali, which is the proposer of the philosophy, Hinduist philosophy of yoga, which I had also the opportunity here in Reaprendentia to present a class about this author, this, let's say, this master, this yogi that proposed yoga, the philosophy of yoga, and basically the philosophy yoga is basically uh, have the objective to reach cosmic consciousness, which is in their terms called samadhi. And I would highlight Patanjali, but obviously Siddhartha Gautama, which is most known as the Buddha in the Buddhist tradition, and Plotino, the philosopher, the Neoplatonic philosopher, also in his book The Enneads, he wrote. It is considered that he wrote about cosmic consciousness. Obviously, he did not use the terms or the words or the expressions that we use here today in conscienciology or even in the conventional science, let's say like this. But it's almost a common sense and almost a broad idea that Plotino had this experience, and not only one time, but maybe two or three times. Plotino probably had some kind of cosmic consciousness. But I would highlight here Patanjali because I think Patanjali is obviously Patanjali. Just a brief resume about Patanjali. Patanjali, as many things in the Hinduist culture, he would be probably half mythological and half human. There are many things talked about Patanjali which we cannot totally believe. We cannot totally give some credit, because in the Hinduist culture it's very common to present things as something mythological. So with Patanjali, it's not different. But the book that Patanjali, it is believed that Patanjali wrote, which is the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, is a very, let's say, very easy way to understand how to achieve cosmic consciousness. And I think it would be a good advice or a good tip for those who are interested in experiencing it to read the book of Patanjali, because I think it's a very easy reading and very easy to understand where Patanjali wants to reach. So this would be my tip in this slide. So this next slide, I chose other three people, masters, whatever we would like to call them, which is Walt Whitman, which was a English, not a North American or an American poet, which was considered by some a very a very different person with a different mentality and a different approach of life from everyone in his period. And it is believed that Walt Whitman had this kind of experience too of cosmic consciousness. And one of these persons who believed that Walt Whitman had this experience was this second figure here, which is Richard Morris Bucke, who coined the term cosmic consciousness and had some kind of veneration on Walt Whitman. And he basically he transformed his whole life after reading a poem of Walt Whitman and have presumably the experience of cosmic consciousness, and started to kind of follow Walt Whitman and try to understand what happened within and what maybe could have happened to other people. And I put these personalities in a chronological order. So in the sequence, we have Ramana Maharshi, which I think was one of the greatest gurus that in the modern times that Hinduism had. And I think that what led him to follow the path of the sannyasin, which is the path of the masters or the rishis of Hinduism, was a cosmic consciousness, which I think he had around 16 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And it's not posed that Ramana Maharshi had this experience, but this is a personal opinion. I think that he had this experience, and uh, it transformed him in a way that made him become one of the greatest masters of modern Hinduism. And this this statement that he's a great master, it's not mine, but from many people that study Hinduism. Do you have any questions, Eliane?
Yes, we have a question from Anna Yogan.
Okay.
She's asking, higher consciousness is observational and experiential. Therefore, would cosmoconsciousness involve the mind looking directly at itself rather than outward at things?
This is a very good question because I will say a little bit about this later in my presentation. Because when we experience the cosmic consciousness, we have some, let's say, some connection, a very deep connection with reality, or a very deep feeling of connection with reality. And what I'm trying to say is that there is not this duality of out of consciousness and inside the consciousness. It the perception or the feeling, the sensation is that it's just one thing. And this question is very interesting to debate, because I was talking about Ramana Maharshi, which is a master of Advaita Vedanta. I said in the Hinduism he's a master, but specifically in the school of Advaita Vedanta. And Advaita Vedanta, Advaita in Sanskrit means non-duality, and they have obviously their own concepts, their own principles, their own ideas, which they work from this perspective of non-duality. But it's uh, a very common manifestation, let's say, or a very common uh, a point which is very common to everyone who say that experience this kind of phenomena, that there is this feeling or sensation or perception of non-duality. So I would not trying to escape from your question, but I would say that the perception is different from other kind of experiences. So I would not directly answer your question, but I would propose another way to think about your question. I don't know if I could be clear about my answer, but if I couldn't, please ask me again. So, other personalities that I could highlight here is these people here that I put in this list. I would highlight maybe Swedenborg, which was a very prominent intellectual in his period, and William Blake, Henri Thoreau também also was a very famous philosopher, anarchist philosopher. Ramakrishna Paramahansa, which was also a very famous Hinduist master. And obviously, I could not forget to mention Professor Valdo Vieira, which also had this kind of experience, and he put this experience in his book. How could I say? It was the last experience that he put in. It was on one of his first books, the about projection of consciousness. I will not know how to say his book in English, but was not projectiology. Was before projectiology. He talked about cosmic consciousness also. I think it's projections of consciousness, the name of his book in English. I do not know if this is the correct translation, but
Yes.
projections of consciousness.
Projections of consciousness.
Okay, so the 60 experience that he relates there.
That's it.
So yeah. So going further, I would like to put the definition. What is exactly cosmic consciousness? And I took a definition from the projectiology, which is one of the most important books of Professor Valdo Vieira, where he describes in a few pages the phenomenon, the cosmic consciousness or the cosmic consciousness, and he puts a definition, and he says that cosmic consciousness, as he prefers to say, is the condition or inner awareness of the consciousness of the cosmos, of life, and the order of the universe. Intellectual and ethical exultation impossible to describe. When consciousness feels the living presence of the universe and becomes one with it in an indivisible unit. And it's very interesting to read this definition because it matches almost perfectly with something I had already said. I said some minutes ago, which is this feeling of the living presence of the universe and this, let's say, this becoming one with it as an indivisible unit. So in order to understand cosmic consciousness, it's very important to try to understand that when this experience occurs, uh, the the way that we perceive things change. It's not a dual kind of perception. There's not this separation of the one who perceives, which is the consciousness, and the reality, which is perceived. There's this kind of approximation, this coming closer between the consciousness and the reality. So this separation of inner consciousness and outer consciousness, it disappears. So trying to enhance or get a better answer to my, or get a better, let's say, a better answer for my question that I had from Nana, I would say that.
Rodrigo,
Yes.
our viewer Mario Luna is mentioning here the correct and the complete name of projection of the
Thank
consciousness.
you.
This
Thank
book
you,
that
Mario.
you mentioned from Professor Valdo, that is a classic. Okay,
Yeah.
here's the whole title of the book, and it was
Yeah.
published for the first time in 1997.
Yeah.
Thanks very
Yeah.
much, Mario.
Yeah,
Okay,
this was what I was trying to remember, the first publication of the book. So it was in 1975. You said
1997.
1997, but from the IPC publisher. But I think Valdo published it before 1997, if I'm not mistaken. But
Okay.
anyway, the
And
the
thanks, Mario.
yeah, the
We have
correct
a
name.
question here from Rui Ferreira. Can I
Okay.
read it?
Yeah, yeah.
To achieve this state of cosmic consciousness, you need to be a yoga master or a guru, or this can be achieved by ordinary people. So, what are the most recommended ways to help us achieving the cosmic consciousness?
Good question, Rui. Thank you for the question. No, there is not a need to be a yoga master or a guru to achieve this kind of experience. But it's more common to see this happening with this kind of people because they are very determined, very focused in achieving it. So this is I think it's the basically difference between an ordinary people and a yoga master and a guru, because they are trying to adequate or to transform or to live a life which is which corresponds to something that will enable them or create the conditions to live a cosmic experience. So it's not something exclusive from a status, because a yoga master and a guru is kind of status, social status, but it's something that will only happen for the one which is really determined to change his life, to change his values, his principles, his purposes, to something more approximate, something closer to the, let's say, the spirit or the idea of cosmic consciousness. So, answering also your second question, I would say exactly this. The most recommended way to achieve cosmic consciousness would be a transformation of your life, to really live as as the concept of cosmic consciousness is proposed, like like the slide I'm here. So imagine that you cannot think about, you don't have cognition to think about the cosmos, to think about evolution, to think about ethical in an ethical way. You can think about the assistentiality between people. You can even think about it. I'm not saying to act like these principles or these values, but I'm saying to simply to think about it. If you even can't think about it, you don't have cognition about this kind of thing, it will be very, very hard to achieve this kind of experience. So uh, my main advice, maybe in another opportunity, I could say more about this. It would be for you to seek some saturation about these concepts, which are in the definition of cosmic consciousness, which is presented here by Professor Valdo and for other people who wrote about this, like I showed uh, Buke, like Ramana Maharshi, like I would say Patanjali, also Plotino, even the Buddha, even Siddhartha Gautama, the principles that he proposes, but the main principles, obviously, because the Buddhism is a very broad philosophical. There's a very broad philosophical framework in the Buddhism, but I would say if you could read, for example, Dhammapada, which is the main core of Buddhism, it would help. But this saturation of the ideas around this concept or this definition of cosmic consciousness would be very helpful.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
This is my question, okay, my doubt.
Okay.
Did you read anything about the diet? If the people were vegan, vegetarian, or other
No.
types of diet of these people who have experienced?
No, no. I haven't seen anything like this, and I haven't seen any recommendation on
About
this
it.
sense. Yes.
Okay. Okay, just was a curiosity.
Yeah.
Right.
I never seen anything like that.
And this is, we have here another comment. So it's a comment of my I did this comment because I thought it was interesting to mention. It seems that for understanding cosmic consciousness, we need to decondition ourselves of the way we are used to see things in a dual manner,
Yes.
dividing things
Yes.
like good or bad, right or wrong,
Yeah.
dark or
Me and the
bright.
others, or me and the reality, the separation from the environment, let's say. The environment is something, I am other thing.
Okay,
But when we have this kind of experience, we perceive or we feel that we are just one. We are
okay,
integrated with the environment, the other people, everything else, which is not us.
very good,
Okay.
good.
So moving on, the criteria of analysis. So I'm in the half of my presentation and I have a lot of things to say here, but I think I'll have the sufficient time to do it. So uh, I identified in 2020 when I published in the Encyclopedia of Conscientiology this entrance here, which talks about cosmic consciousness, and I identified 15. It's wrong. I don't know why it's wrong the numbers here, but there are 15 criteria of analysis here, which uh, when the 15 characteristics are all together, you can say you experienced a cosmic consciousness. This is my thesis, or this is my hypothesis for the phenomena. If you experienced one of the characteristics that I will go a little bit deeper here, you can say you had at least expansion of the consciousness. But if you had the 15 altogether, you probably, in my opinion, can say that you had a cosmic consciousness. So uh, we could debate that. It's not a closed idea. We could debate that because maybe the person had the experience, but he couldn't relate some part of the experience to one of the topics here. But I would say that if we could explore and go a little bit deeper in the way that this person that is saying that had the experience, probably we would see something, some connection with the criteria which the person did not found in a first glance, let's say like that. So the first one it's a very important um, point here, because there are some mistakes in the concept in general. There are some mistakes by many people about cosmic consciousness, not just in the lines of knowledge out of conscienciology, but also in the conscienciology community. It is important to clarify this point, because it is a staple. This first point, the mental somaticity, which is the necessary experience of the projection of mental soma, which is the mental body of the consciousness. It is necessary to have this projection in order to declare, to affirm that the person had a cosmic consciousness. If there was not a projection of the mental soma, there was not also a cosmic consciousness. It was something else, but not cosmic consciousness in the way that we are proposing, and mainly Professor Valdo proposed cosmic consciousness or cosmo consciousness. So, for the people who are the first time here, uh, this projection of mental soma would be like in this figure that I put here, which is our subtle body, our most subtle body. What I'm trying to say here, that the consciousness is not the physical body, and not even the 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 other body that appears here, which would be the psychosoma. But the consciousness can express itself also from this mental body, which is the mental soma. Soma is from the Greek word soma, which means body. And the consciousness has this, which we call this hollow soma. Consciousness is not only a physical body, but a, 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 four bodies. It is constituted or can express itself through four bodies, and we call this holosome. This group of bodies we call holosome, and there is a speciality, let's say, in conscienciology, which we call holosomatology. And this leads us very briefly, I want to say, about the consciential paradigm. From the projection of the consciousness, we can affirm about multidimensionality, because we can survive beyond our physical body. It means that the consciousness can express itself in other dimensions. So there is a multidimensionality of the consciousness. There is a seriality. The consciousness does not manifest itself in just one life, but in many lives. There is the bioenergetics. So the consciousness does not also express itself through words, through its actions, but also through the energies, the bioenergies. We can also see that this pattern is something that is universal. So we can affirm also that the consciential paradigm is based on a universal concept of the consciousness. The cosmoethics that arises also from this universalism, and it's also very important for us to reach all of these knowledges. It's also it's only possible to reach these knowledges from self research. So this is also a pillar from our paradigm. So everything, the other six topics that I said here from our paradigm, the first one everything begins with the projection of the consciousness, the holosomatology, or the holosome, the existence of holosome. And in our case, specifically from the projection of the mental soma. So this is a very important point for us to put here, because there are a lot of confusion about this. There are some people, not to say many people, that believes that it's possible to say that they lived or they experienced a cosmic consciousness without the projection of mental soma. But in our concept, this is not possible. So the second characteristic of the cosmic consciousness, I would say, is that the perceptions that we have during the experience are not distorted by comparisons or association of ideas. So when we are experiencing cosmic consciousness, our perception is not, uh, let's say, it's not distorted, or uh, is not deviated by comparisons, association of ideas, thinking, judgments, and this kind of things. So the perception is more pure, let's say like that.
So, Rodrigo, a question
Yes,
to clarify. So we can say that our attention is not divided. We don't have divided attention. We have a focus. We are more
yes,
focused on something,
yes.
and
We
this
are
something is
focused.
huge, it's big,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
universal.
It's something almost paradoxical, because we are uh, extremely focused, but with a cosmic vision. So we have a very chirurgical, let's say, focus, but with a vision, a very broad vision, a very wide vision, because we are manifesting ourselves directly from this mental body that I said,
Mm-hmm.
and this body have this ability, let's say, or this capability of absorbing the reality and the information of the reality very quickly, and with a efficiency very high. But the focus is maintained.
Okay, got
So
it.
that when we are manifesting ourselves with our body, our physical body, with our brain, we are when we are perceiving the reality, we are doing comparisons, association of ideas all the time,
Yeah.
and this kind of hinders our perception, or our focus in that moment.
Deviate our attention. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
this is something natural. We cannot escape from that. But when we are manifesting ourselves with other bodies, like the mental body, in a projection of the consciousness, it's everything different.
Very good.
So this is one of the characteristics that I'm putting here.
Okay.
Another one is this this feeling that I said before, which is uh, the feeling of non-duality, or the perception that there is not this duality between me and the reality, or the nature, or the environment, or of everything that is around me, or from other people. There is this deep connection which leads my perception to a non-duality feeling. So there is a relative or total experience of unification with the cosmos. So this would um, would fit in this third criteria of self-experimentation. So in the self-experimentation, I could feel that. In this perspective of self-experimentation, I could feel this non-duality, which is said by these masters or these people that say that had experienced a cosmic consciousness, or this line of inside the Hinduism of Advaita Vedanta, which I said Ramana Maharshi is one of the masters who represents the modern concept of Advaita Vedanta. They usually say about this, but they don't explain why this the reality or the perception should be like this, should be non-dual. But when we experience the cosmic consciousness, we can understand them, because this is really the ultimate reality or the ultimate way to perceive things. So this is only possible from a self-experimentation perspective. So the person should put themselves in this situation to try to experiment this. If this does not happen, it will impossible to refuse or to accept this kind of declaration by this kind of masters. So the fourth point here is cognition. You will, I don't know, maybe will realize that some characteristics, they are superimposed from one to another. But I would like to highlight here the small differences between them, and to try to make more clear the experience. So we already said about the cognition, and but I would like to put here that in this point there is a activation of cognition and ideas in blocks. Why I'm saying that? Because usually when there is a projection of the consciousness, when the consciousness returns to the physical body, it is very common to the person say that the the memory of the ideas of the experience that the person had already had in the previous moment comes in fragments. So it's hard to remember everything that happened. But when we have the cosmic consciousness, it's the opposite. The ideas does not come in fragments, but in blocks. There is a absorption of ideas, of information, of cognition, of knowledge, if we could say, in blocks. So this is a very common topic that person that say that had the experience, they put also in this situation. Communicability, communication without signs, with greater or lesser use of conscientese, which would be a neologism of conscientiology, about the universal language of the consciousness, would be this conscientese. So Valdo described in the definition of the cosmic consciousness that it's hard to describe what is cosmic consciousness, what happens in the cosmic consciousness. This is because in this experience there is not forms, there is not signs, there are not words that we can uh, uh, absorb, and then we can represent the experience. It's something more related to something amorphous, and there is this amorphous situation. It's more or less common, but in some sense it happens. Eliane,
I've got a question from Mario Luna. How
yes.
much can one have his or her life changed after experiencing cosmic consciousness?
Well, I would say it. Uh, I would say a lot. The most common is that we see a lot of transformation in people that experience this kind of situation. But I would go a step back because I would return the question for you, Mario, because I would question you if or when you had your first experience of lucid projection, how did it impacted your life? How was the change in your life after this experience? Or even when you became more aware, more lucid about your parapsychism, when uh, we have a Brazilian term like the coin dropped. I don't know how to say that in English, but when everything became clearer to you, how could I say that, Eliane, in English?
I don't know. I think Mario knows it. Mario knows all this crazy expression. Caiu a
Yeah.
ficha. I mean.
Yes.
Quando caiu a
Yes.
ficha. I don't know. If
Yes.
someone knows, please let write here in the comments
Yes. But when you
when everything
became,
makes sense.
yeah, how do they say?
No, this is what I'm trying to
Ah,
transcribe
okay.
the
Yes.
emotion.
Yeah, but when you really understood the multidimensionality, what are
Mario,
people saying?
Mario's
Hmm.
mentioned here. Caiu a ficha means the coin dropped.
The coin
When
drop. Yes, what I said. What I said. I
very
said
good.
the coin drop. Yeah. So when the coin dropped about multidimensionality and let's say the consciential paradigm, when this coin dropped for you, how was the impact in your life? How did it change you, your values, your principles, your lifestyle? How it changed you? So I think it was a very transforming experience when you had this kind of situation. But imagine with cosmic consciousness. I think it's another level, or it could be another level in your evolution because it's a very radical experience. So I would say the main transformation, Mario, in someone's life is their values. That is because that is why I'm sorry that we make so many connections with between cosmic consciousness and cosmoethics because the main transformation in the life of someone could be could only be in their values or in their principles, let's say, because this is the way that the person sees the world. This is the lens that the person will use to see the world and to conduct its life or their lives. So I must move on here. The sixth point here is the timelessness, or if I could say, a temporality, eternal, uh, let's say, eternal feeling, but a disconnection between future and past. There is not this connection or this interference of past or future in our way to perceive things. But in the other sense, there is a predominant connection with timeless present when we are experiencing a cosmic consciousness, only the now exists. This timelessness now, this atemporal now, this eternal now. In our perception, only this exists. Critical judgments about reality do not distort experiences and perceptions. So I said in the second point, I think, about comparisons and association of ideas, but now it's the judgment. Because one thing is for you to compare and to do association. Another thing is to make judgments or even to make choices, to choose things, to choose to interpret the reality in a way. So when there is the cosmic consciousness, there is not critical judgments about reality, because there is not, let's say that there is not option. The reality is just one. The facts is just one. Everything, the reality is just one. It is not. There is versions of reality. There is ways to interpret the reality, but in the last analysis, the reality is just one. So when we are experiencing cosmic consciousness, there is not this critical judgments about the reality. Oh, the reality is this, the reality is that. I don't like the reality, or I like the reality. I think this about the reality. So that there is not this critical judgment distorting. This is the problem. The problem is not the critical judgment. It happens, the critical judgment, but there's not the distortion of the experience. The experience is not, let's say, is not aborted because of this, is not hindered because of our critical judgments. So another impossibility, let's say, or less interference, is of chronemics. Chronemics is our internal time, our psychological perception of time. So our internal or psychological perception of time does not distort our perception, our general perception, let's say. Because why this happens? Again, why this happens? Because we are manifesting ourselves, we are expressing ourselves with the mental body, directly from the mental body. We do not have the interference of the emotional body, of the psychosoma, or the soma, the physical body. We are expressing ourselves directly from the mental body. So the chronemics and also the chronology, which is the perception, or the connection with the time of the world, the real time, the time of the clock. There is not this interference in the perception. And considering that there's not this interference, there is a predominance of laws of the notion of time. Another point which is very, very common, that people usually say about cosmic consciousness, is this predominant feeling of peace and intimate well-being. This non-disturbance, this impossibility to be disturbed by the occurrences and with what happens around the consciousness. So there is this unshakable, invincible feeling of peace and intimate well-being during the experience. It's also important, this point, our beliefs and personal biases does not also distort the perception. Our perception is more pristine, is more pure, is more connected with the timelessness now, the eternal now, and there is not this duality. There is a non-duality in the perception. So one of the causes for this to happen is also because there are not our beliefs and personal biases interfering in this perception. From the point of view of the intellection, there is an amplification of this cognition, or as I say, a cosmic cognition or a cosmo cognition. It's like we understand the cosmos. We understand the principles and the laws of the order of the cosmos. In the definition of Professor Waldo, this is said, but this is really what happens in this situation. It's like we feel that everything is in order, but we understand the disorder. This is the more important. I think this another part that I'm saying here is not in the definition, but we feel the order. We know that everything is in order. Everything is it in its due place, but we understand why things are like that. So we understand the principles, the laws that conduct disorder, that organize the universe, let's say. In the point of view of affectivity, there is a necessary experience of achieving elevated feelings. So we feel a very deep love, for example, or a fraternity for other being, even not human beings, the animals, the plants, the universe, everything. We feel love, we feel in connection with them. So we feel integrated with them. We feel one with them. I think this is the next point that I say here. But this oneness feeling, which is from the perspective of paraperceptibility, which is the way we perceive things in a multidimensional way, this leads us to feel love for other kinds of beings, for our, I don't know, we have some disagreements with some people. We could think about these people, and we would probably feel compassion for them, feel love, feel fraternity, feel good about them. So this have some connection with this oneness feeling, this integration. And to end, the 15th characteristics is the parapolitics. We feel in this integration, we feel like a citizen of the cosmos. We feel belonging like a citizen of the cosmos. Yes, Eliane, I'm almost finishing.
Very good. I just have a comment here from Anna Yogan. I think it's very interesting. Since cosmoconsciousness sometimes occur during near-death experiences, one could say the potential transformations could be very deep and rather intense.
Yes, we could do this connection because it's very usual to see people that had this kind of experience of near-death experience to transform their lives because they basically they discovered multi-dimensionality. But when we have a cosmic consciousness, it's like we discovered another level of the multi-dimensionality. So this is why I'm saying it's a next step in the evolution of the consciousness, because if the mere discovering of the parapsychism or the multidimensionality from a near-death experience could make this transformation, and considering that the cosmic consciousness is another level, so it would be really a great impact in the life of the person and in its values. It's important to reaffirm that, because this is the core of the consciousness, the values and the principles that orient the consciousness. So to end my presentation, I would like to leave some questions here and ask, have you ever experienced one of these conditions that I said, one of the 15 conditions? If you experience all of them at once, do you consider having a cosmic consciousness? This is a good question to do. And also, have you already admitted the possibility of experiencing cosmic consciousness in this life? If not, why? And if so, what aspects you think it's necessary to change in yourself, on your life, to reach this state? So the bibliographical references here. And thank you very much for your time, for your patience. So it was very good to be here.
Thank you very much, Rodrigo. It was great having all these great ideas, very important new synapses that you brought to us. I like it very much. I hope everyone that is watching can enjoy as much as I did. And I'm sure that all these ideas can help us to boost our evolution and reach what we call existential completism. I am sure it will help us a lot. And people, I would like to invite you all to subscribe in our channel, follow us, give your like if you like this live, and we thank you very much for your participation. That's all we have for today. And I would like also to invite you to watch our next live that will be on December 18, Sunday, with Djalma Fonseca. And we are going to debate once more the theme ectoplasm. This time with we are going to discuss about the symptoms of ectoplasm exteriorization. So thank you for joining us. Happy evolutionary journey.